as soon as possible. All right. You ready to go? Okay. All right. Let me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Straight Talk podcast. I am your host, as always, as he is Vince, and I'm joined by my consistent co-host. At this point, I want to say like you're the guy. You're the LeBron James to my Dwayne Wade. He is Basharat. Bash, how you doing, man?
I'm doing real good, man. I'm doing really good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. We finally got camera for you. We got some
Yeah,
visuals for you.
switched to an older backup laptop here, so apologies if there's any issues we have to correct for later. But
No
since we're going
worries.
live, wanted to make sure that we're on one that actually could see me.
Obviously, yeah. And we're here to do NBA All-Star predictions. And this is a very special
Yeah.
episode because I don't know if you recall or not.
Oh,
Bosh,
I remember. It was the
over.
anniversary.
This is the anniversary episode. It's not exactly an anniversary to the date, or it might actually be. I think it might have been.
Yeah, I
like
was going to say maybe not by date, but by topic, subject matter.
Uh-huh.
We're
Yeah,
probably
exactly.
close though to date
Yeah,
wise.
I can actually look it up when it actually dropped while we talk. But yeah, man, this has been a year. You've been a year on Straight Talk, man, and no better episode to do than the first episode we recorded together, which was NBA All-Star predictions. Yeah, we did on the 31st. This is going to drop on the 28th. Well, we're recording on the 28th, so it's going to drop later on today.
Wow.
So yeah, 3
That's pretty
days
close.
removed. Yeah, 3 days removed from your anniversary, man.
Not bad, not bad. This one was a little bit quicker to get in the books because I paid attention to the predictions part of that this time. Last year, I was like, oh, what are my picks? And I did the whole Zach Lowe when he talks about digging into the Vorps and Schmorps. And I was looking up everybody's like how they affect winning and their plus minus and their wins above replacement levels. And I was like, I came with like, yo, man, these are the people who should be in the All-Star game. Then you're like, who do you think will actually make it? I'm like, oh shit, give me a minute.
No, it was good, man. It was a different perspective. You had one take on it, I had the other, but we're on the same page this episode. We are doing predictions for who we believe will make it, and obviously at the end we can go ahead and make some honorable mentions of guys we think should be included in the list. I took the liberty of making graphics for both of us since this is going to be live, and just put our picks together. So without further ado, we can get right into it. Just add that, make sure that looks good on the screen. As we saw this past Thursday on TNT, the starters were announced. We have Team LeBron versus Team Giannis. This feels like a handicap to me, Bosh, because this is the third time they've met as team captains, Giannis and LeBron, that is. And every single time, Giannis just gets smoked in the drafting process and his teams lose. LeBron is undefeated.
It was, well, we'll see. I think as we go through the list of reserves, that has a little bit. I mean, it could still happen, but has a little bit less of a chance of happening. I think there are fewer roster imbalances in teams in terms of like who these guys might feel more loyal to picking, and a lot of balance throughout the East and West rosters. Honestly, it's going to be interesting. What's really interesting to me is LeBron was almost not the captain. Because the starters are picked 25% by the other players, 25% by the media, and 50% from the fan voting. LeBron, of course, led massively in fan voting, so he had a little bit of an edge. Not surprisingly, the media's number one pick was Nikola Jokic. Maybe not be surprising to most people, as he's a two-time reigning MVP. What might be surprising is that the players' number one voted for person was also Nikola Jokic.
Rightfully so. If it wasn't back-to-back MVP.
Yeah, but the other players generally vote, they don't give as much love to the Euro guys. They don't give as much love specifically to Jokic and Embiid and Giannis as they do to guys like Durant and LeBron and Tatum. Not just the American guys, but the guys who are kind of like came up in the American system in American high schools, and these guys, a little bit flashier. Jokic is plenty flashy, but not in the way of guys like LeBron, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but
with the
he has some
power and
flash.
athleticism.
He has some flash to him though.
Well,
With
he's got a lot of flash, but the power and athleticism that you generally associate with American athletes, Jokic's flash is very different. So,
100%.
yeah, no, I was just kind of encouraged. I thought that was pretty cool that you almost had a Nikola Jokic team captain. That would have been very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they would have been interesting too, like Euro guys, two international guys coming in there, and Giannis and Jokic. Shout out to Justin from Get Your Podcast. He's in the chat.
Justin, you got to at least be playing in the NBA, no?
I mean, isn't he making a return, or
He
is
made
that
anybody listens to this later without the chat video. He made a shout out to Kenneth Fareed, all USA Olympic basketball.
exactly the manimal? But yeah, so these were the team captains: Team LeBron, Team Giannis. I think it was a closer race in the Eastern Conference because it could have went Team KD, Team Giannis. I think overall they might have just given it to Giannis because he is probably the best player in the NBA currently, but
Yeah,
also because Kevin Durant's currently out, so that might have like played into a factor of things.
that might have swung things. It was. I'm honestly I was surprised because I think when we talked about it last week, I'm pretty sure I predicted KD would stay captain, or
Yes,
but yeah.
yes, we
So
we both actually I think took KD as captain.
yeah, kind of surprised. I was wrong on the starter prediction, I think, because I predicted AD, and by a hair, Zion
Hmm.
Williamson made it in there.
Yeah,
So
we will talk about that, Bakley. Don't worry about it. We will talk about that.
yeah,
Uh,
we'll get to it. We're going to talk about our reserves. We'll get to the
yeah.
snubs because
He was
obviously our
his.
snubs are most likely going to make the team.
Yeah, yeah. So Bakley mentioned East starters, but we're gonna start with the West starters here. And obviously, as we saw, we have LeBron James as the team captain. He got voted in, along with Luka Doncic, Steph Curry in the backcourt, and he's joining the front court with Nikola Jokic, the guy that almost became team captain, and Zion Williamson. You just mentioned it, man. Are you at all surprised by these? Because I kind of made mention of it that I thought that Zion might supersede Anthony Davis, especially with him being out. And obviously Zion was also out too. But I think we all agreed that like maybe Larry Markkinen deserves that spot. But I'm not really surprised with anything that happened here.
No, yeah, we agreed on who deserves it, but yeah, I am surprised as I just said about Zion edging out AD. I mean, it was close. I think you might have picked Zion actually, and I
Yeah,
went
I
with
think
AD.
yeah, I think I did. I
So
think
you
you
got it
went
right.
AD and I went Zion. Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm definitely surprised by that, especially because AD made his comeback. Although I think that might have been right after voting ended, so that might
it
have made a
was.
difference.
It
So
was. I think the fan voting ended on Saturday. He returned early in this week.
right,
So
and I
it
think
was a
player and media voting probably ended too, right around that same time. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, Zion's a little bit more popular right now currently. Like it was a little bit closer in the fan vote, which I think might have swayed things.
if anybody's
My
wondering what I'm eating while Vince is talking, this delicious Oreo ice cream sandwich bar, man. These things are my crack. I will down like
oh
8 of these.
my god,
It's
geez,
like a
dude.
ice cream Oreo cookie, giant. It's awesome.
Well, I mean, currently his ankle injury isn't too much of an issue. If he does miss a game, I mean, we could talk about like who would replace him after
Oh, I
we're all
think
said
yeah, I
and done.
think once we talk about the reserves and our predictions and maybe picks, etc., we'll get to possible replacements.
Shout out to Benji in the chat too. It's like all of Chicago the Phantasm is in the chat right now. So yeah, yeah. Let's move on to our actual reserves, the little meat and potatoes of the whole podcast, what everyone came to see. So we're doing our predictions of who we think will actually make the team, and I put them side by side comparison between me and Bosch, and I only made a slight differences on players that we didn't agree on. So Bosch, this is the first time you're seeing our picks as well as everyone else. We both had John Morant. Both agreed that Shea Gilgis Alexander deserved to be in there. We both agreed with Larry Markkinen being in there. We both had Domantas Sabonis as well. We differ here. I have Paul George. You have Anthony Davis. We both
Hmm.
have Devin Booker and Damian Lillard. We only have one difference here. But as you can see, there's little like asterisks on some of my picks, and I will elaborate on
Oh,
them a
definitely. We'll
little
get
bit.
to yeah. Let's talk about who made it in, and then we can get to because I have some notes here. If anybody
Yes.
wants to see my notes here, like extend down to the because there's some stuff to talk about at the end of that. I'm assuming you saw the rules, just so anybody watching or listening, they may not have looked into it, but um, just like with the fan voting,
Yeah.
certain players are slotted into certain categories that you have to put them in the ballots. I'm assuming that the coaches, because the 30 coaches are who are going to be picking
Yes.
the reserves. So
Wait,
maybe
is
they
it the
delegate.
30 coaches or is it just the 15 coaches from their respective conference? That's always the
No,
part that always
you know
eludes
what?
me.
I'm actually confused. All I know for sure, in fact, I actually have the NBA's, all the NBA's page says, okay, they vote, I think they just select all of them because it says the 30 NBA coaches select the
Okay.
14 reserves.
All
And
right.
the way they do that, and it actually says right here, so we don't have to guess, two guards, three front court players, and two wild cards, two players at
Hmm.
any position
Yes.
in their conferences. And then if anyone gets injured, Adam Silver, the commissioner, will pick the replacement. Obviously, we'll get to that at the end, but these
Hmm.
these seven per conference are two guards, two front court players, and then two that can be any position, and you're
Yeah.
relegated to that and how players are listed.
Well, once again, Bakley, you keep jumping ahead, man, but we're gonna get to it. So, okay, so essentially, uh, yeah, dude, Basharat always comes prepared. Benji, he comes prepared probably more than me, and I'm the dude that's like running the whole like live stream.
Well, you got a lot of
Uh,
work to do, Vince. You gotta
yeah,
you gotta do the edits and you gotta put together the graphics and you gotta get the
yeah.
stream up. No, it's all good.
So okay, so the two guards obviously were John Morant and Gilgeous Alexander. I think we both agreed here. I think those were like home run locks for me. Like, was it at all like
S-
a tough bet for you to put one of those
s-
in there over anyone
So
else?
for me, no, because I would have them in, and it's a prediction, right? And to
Yeah.
me, I would. I mean, we talked about it last week. Shea would have been starting for me. Like that's what I would think. What we'll get to is at the end because even though, like, again, we're predicting who's going to get in, so a lot of that is kind of dependent on whose reputation carries forward, right? Because you think about it, it's a 30 coaches, they don't got a shit ton of time, they're not actually delving into the stats, most of these guys. Half of them are probably handing it over to an assistant, an assistant coach or something. That's who's filling out the ballot and they're sending it back in. They're thinking about who they have to game plan for. They're thinking about, in their heads, who's the best player, who's given them the most trouble in the past. Not necessarily. Maybe there's a few coaches who do take it, really
Yeah.
seriously, but they're not necessarily thinking about who's having the best impact or best year, regardless of reputation or whatever. And that can make a difference. There also, it's going to be a little interesting because in this year, winning, like how much are the coaches valuing winning? And we'll talk about as we go down our
Because there's so
picks.
much parity in the league on both
Yeah,
conferences,
there
especially the
is.
West.
And then all the names are in that parity, like Booker and Dame, and these guys are on 500 teams, right? Booker and
Hmm.
Dame, they're on teams that are like a game and a half out of fifth and a game and a half out of 13th and completely out of the playing tournament. Literally 3 games separate the Lakers and like the, I think, Kings or something, or maybe who's ever after the Kings. So,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, I have it up right here. Let's see, Western Conference. Yeah, 3 games separate. That's an insane. So what we're looking at is like they're probably going off rep. And what I'm thinking of in terms of winning is the part that was hard for me was Jamal Murray. Like should
Oh
have
yeah.
been, dude. The Denver is leading the leading team in the league, and they've only get Jokic in is kind of crazy. And on that same note, normally, like traditionally, a team like Memphis, the number two, both Denver and Memphis would have at least two All Stars.
Yeah.
But
If not three.
right. But this time, all the named like reputationally great players are caught at 500-ish teams that could be anywhere from 5th to 13th, and the two teams that are leading not just the conference but like close to leading the league, along with the Celtics,
Hmm.
those teams are younger teams with only one well-established superstar. I think traditionally Desmond Bain would have been a starter, from Memphis. Because I
Okay.
think Jaren Jackson Jr. would have had an argument, but I think the way coaches normally view this, they know he fouls out a lot. They know he missed the
Hmm.
beginning of the year with injury. He may not have had enough minutes. Maybe he will get it. But I think Desmond Bain, between Bain or Jaren Jackson, though, one of them would have been in from the West number two team, far and away number two team. And then from the West number one team, Jamal Murray would have been a lock, like traditionally.
Yes. Yes. I mean, even in the top three, like you look at Sacramento, like shout out to Sacramento, like my like favorite team to go ahead and watch when it's not the Bulls. But Yeah, man. Like you can make an argument for two guys in De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis over there in Sacramento.
Yeah, yeah. No, I actually looked at that. I'm like, De'Aaron Fox normally would have made it too. In fact, Sabonis is only a lock because of that, because Sacramento's clearly the number 3 team. He's had a spotlight. They're a turnaround season. Like if Memphis had sucked last year,
Mm-hmm.
like they did the year before last, and then suddenly was number 2, I think they would have gotten another All-Star in there, maybe. Like, but it's like they're an established team. Everybody knows Ja. I think Domantas Sabonis is getting a lot of shine because the spotlight is on Sacramento. I think he deserves it though,
Okay,
and it's
so
yeah.
let's talk about that. So like we move on, and Domantas Sabonis is one we both agreed on. I have an asterisk on Domantas Sabonis because I was like,
Were you thinking of
maybe they'll
De'Aaron Fox or?
like, yeah. I was thinking it was maybe the coaches would vote De'Aaron Fox, maybe Domantas Sabonis, maybe they split votes and it just by like a hair or a vote, one gets over the other. But in preference, I think it's Sabonis has the bigger impact on that team, and it's just I think like him just being there twice already, like
Mhm.
kind of like gives him an edge over De'Aaron Fox, who I think deserves to get an honorable mention as an All Star reserve as well. You look at Larry Market and another guy we both agreed on
Yeah,
here, and their team is currently number 10 in the
I
Western
I wish you would have
Conference.
gotten in. Like we thought, we kind of think he deserved a starting spot, and I wish you would have gotten it because the game is in Utah, so that would have been
Yeah,
nice.
I think he should still make it. Like him making because they're in Utah. I think it's like still just as good. If like granted, being a starter would have been way better,
Yeah,
and I
being a
think he
starter would have been
deserves
cool.
it over AD and Zion, like who
Right.
were the two contenders to get that final front court spot.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, man. Like I think it's one of those things where, like you just mentioned it earlier, currently about like the standings being a little bit more parity. I think as long
Mhm.
as you're like within range of the play-in tournament, you're going to be considered for for your team to have an all-star in there. Which why I had so much diversity. So we both agree with Larry Market. I think he's obviously like a lock in there. So is Sabonis. We both agreed on Booker, and actually Bakley mentioned in the chat that he thinks Booker's a little shaky because he's missed some time. However, he is coming back, and I do believe that him having the name recognition, him being on the cover of 2K, is he's gonna make it back in there, man. So I think that's a lock for sure.
Yeah,
We
Booker's
bo-
going to get it because he's fringe wise MVP ish type of player, and yeah, Phoenix have been struggling with him, but mostly they've been struggling since he went out, right? So that's kind of the reason that the Pelicans are what, a game and a half ahead of them right now, a game ahead of them. So
okay, yeah.
yeah.
Then obviously Damian Lillard, he's been there before. His team isn't doing best standings wise because they're 12th in the Western Conference. But when you look at other teams ahead of him, like the Warriors, they already got Steph Curry. I don't think they deserve a second All Star. The Mavericks, I don't think they deserve a second All Star as well. Then you look at the Timberwolves. I don't think anyone on that team deserves to
No,
be
no.
an All Star.
So like, I think I have
And
the
funny enough, Bakley mentions Anthony Edwards as we say.
well, like me and you thought Anthony Edwards was poised for a big leap, but he kind of struggled to start the year for quite a while, up until somewhat recently, I'd say. I think if it wasn't for the third worst team in the West being the Lakers, I'd say the bottom 3 teams in each conference weren't going to get an All Star. In this case, bottom 3 is Lakers, and they're only again 3 games out of the 5th spot, so they're going to get 2 All Stars, but the Spurs and Rockets are not getting an All Star, and I think it's surprising. And the Timberwolves are going to be the one that's in the parity stratosphere that is
Mhm.
also not going to get an All Star out of all those teams. Because
Well,
Thunder, Blazers, Jazz,
mhm.
Suns, Warriors, Mavericks, Clippers. It kind of depends. You got Paul George making it. Who did I have instead of Paul George
You
there?
have
Let me
Anthony
see.
Davis making it in there.
AD.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of confident in that. So I think the Clippers might get shut out too. It's kind of wild to think that Kawhi and PG in a year they're actually playing, albeit limited, may not make the All Star game.
I think it's going to be a case of looking at the standings for the Lakers, seeing that they're currently 13 in the Western Conference, and they juggle between number 10 and number 13 all the time. And Anthony Davis being injured more than Paul George this year, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's apples and oranges here, Bosch. I think you can arguably make a case for both being available if like I don't know, like maybe the snub here is Damian Lillard. That's actually why I have the asterisk on there. Is
Yeah,
because I had Paul George and my alternate was Anthony Davis, but then I was like, if Anthony Davis makes the starters, then that asterisk on Paul George turns into Zion Williamson, and then that
right,
final
right.
spot goes between Paul George and Damian Lillard. And at that point, like again, apples and oranges. I think it's going to come down between Paul George, Anthony Davis, and Damian Lillard. Thankfully for Davis and Paul George, instead they're going to be slotted as front court guys. Because aside from Larry Markkinen and Domantas Sabonis, I really don't see any front court player in the Western Conference that really stands out deserving to be an All-Star reserve.
Yeah, I agree. I think PG definitely is in there. I mean, it's kind of crazy if you look at the names who are being left out here, because a lot of these guys have rep too. Klay Thompson, obviously, and then again with Denver and Memphis only getting one and not getting Jamal Murray in there, or Desmond Bain, or Jaren Jackson. Sacramento, who's solidly at number 3, is only going to apparently get one. De'Aaron Fox is going to miss. Chris Paul, obviously, like at the end of his career
Yeah,
here, I think it's about time that he's not going to be making the team either. And then you still have Brandon Ingram, Draymond Green.
yeah.
So
I
yeah,
mean, well, Draymond, no, man. I'm sorry, I can't give Draymond an All-Star slot anymore. I think
Draymond
it's
has been really good this year. He's been really, really, really good. I think because Golden State's struggling, I agree he doesn't deserve to make it just because of the names. Again, the people are the NBA is really good, and a lot of players are healthy this year. So it's a lot more crowded than last year when we had a lot more guys out. So it's
yeah.
it's in a good spot.
Bakley makes a great point. Booker and Davis have not played half of their team's games. They probably make it, but I don't think they deserve to. And I'm going to go ahead and agree with Bakley. Surprisingly, here we are agreeing on some things. Yeah, no Draymond love, Benji. I'm sorry, we're not gonna
I gave
we're
him
not
some love. I gave him some love. Don't say no love. I said he's
because
having a really good year.
the issue with the Western Conference is guys that would normally make it, like you mentioned it with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard being on the Clippers, kind of like going through injuries, not playing their best. You go on to the Pelicans, you have guys like CJ McCollum, you have Brandon Ingram, but again, nothing that stands out too crazy for you. Like on the Grizzlies, you can maybe make a case for Jaren Jackson Jr. or the Desmond Bain, but after that, you look at Timberwolves, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards on the Warriors, Clay and Draymond. None of those guys are just standing out to me and having fantastic seasons. So
No,
I
I
think just
actually
by
think it was
default,
actually kind of an easy pick for me. It's just that um, I just think it's kind of incredible that these names are left out, and some of them fairly clearly. Some of them it's going to be tough because I think again, I don't think Paul George makes it. Again, we'll get to in the end of it. We'll talk about like replacements
mhm,
and stuff. But I don't think Paul George and Kawhi, Brandon Ingram, Klay Thompson, De'Aaron Fox, Jamal Murray, like that. Those are some deserved names right there.
for sure.
Yeah,
So
exactly. The talent is absolutely stacked this year. And again,
oh, wait until we get to the East. I thought that I
yep.
had more
Oh yeah,
trouble in
yeah.
the East.
I did too a
Uh,
little bit. Yeah.
So this is what we're gonna do. Bosch is gonna transition. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see his beautiful mug on the screen because he has to switch cameras. So I'll be going ahead and transitioning to the Eastern Conference. And in the meantime, anyone in the chat, if you guys are still here, I want you guys to be active. Give me your 7 reserves: 2 backcourt, 3 front court, and 2 wild cards. So your 7 West reserves. If you were to choose who gets in, you guys just let me know. Bosch, saying goodbye to him. And we're going to move on to the next slide here. We're going to go on to the Eastern Conference starters. We have Giannis Antetokounmpo as the team captain, joined by Kevin Durant, who arguably could have been the team captain because the fan vote was that close. Kyrie Irving, his teammates in Brooklyn, no surprise here whatsoever because it's the fan vote. He has this league of fans. He's very popular, and honestly, I wouldn't want to see an All-Star game without Kyrie Irving. He feels like he fits perfectly in that kind of whole.
It would have been interesting if he hadn't made it through the fan vote because John Hollinger was kind of predicting that no coach would vote for Kyrie Irving, and so he would not make it that way. And I think he probably would be right, given like his issues off the court and what a headache
Mhm.
coaches probably deem him to be. That maybe he wouldn't have made it. That would have been interesting to see. But he, with the Mets having turned the season around and him largely on the back of KD. Don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
Kyrie's definitely doing his part, and he's been
Yeah.
yeah.
Just to address Benji's comment, it's like Benji, me and Bosch had the same list, except he had Anthony Davis instead of Paul George. And I only went with Paul George because he's been more healthier than Anthony Davis. But I honestly, I feel like it could be Anthony Davis over Paul George, and the Clippers just get snubbed altogether. I wouldn't be mad at it though. Um,
Yeah,
going back to the East starters, Donovan Mitchell, fourth time All Star, first time as a starter, first time as an Eastern Conference All Star. He makes it in there, even though technically there aren't no more conferences in the game anymore. And then Jason Tatum, he gets voted in as a starter. This is actually his third start. The prior two starts was injury replacement for Kevin Durant. This time he's earned his way in. And honestly, he deserves to be in here. Us,
he does.
from between Giannis,
I
Kevin
think
Durant,
I
and
think like
Tatum,
yeah, deserved wise, I think Giannis like Embiid should have gotten in over Giannis in that one, but it's so close. And Giannis is a two-time MVP. We both agreed he was the best player in the league,
yes.
and so it's understandable why the fans would vote
I
him in.
think look, I agree with I agree with that Embiid should have been in as a starter, but I think the one he would have replaced was Kevin Durant because I if we're just going based off of current like what they've done health wise, Kevin Durant's out. Giannis is struggling right now, but he's really just carrying the load all by himself.
He's out, but I
He's
think KD's slated to come back within a week. Like,
he is slated to come back, but
yeah,
that's kind of where I go with it is that Tatum deserves to get in. I figured he was going to get in, and I knew that Giannis and Durant were locks to make it because of the
right,
fan
because of the
vote.
voting. Yeah, yeah,
They were so close, neck and neck, to be the team captain, and that
right.
alone made me feel like they're going to get plenty of votes from the media the and the players
Hmm.
along with the fan votes that they're going to get in. I think to me, it really just came down to is Jason Tatum going to get it in over Joel Embiid, and it was mostly
With
the
Boston
media
leading the league or
leading the
leading the
league. Yeah, number
conference.
one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I think that was a given. But yeah, let's get to. I'm interested to see because I haven't seen your picks. You've seen mine because you put the graphic up, but I have not yet seen your picks. So
Yeah.
uh,
Before we do, Bakley he put his in. He got John Moran, SGA, Lowry, Edwards, Dame, Sabonis, and whoever Booker, I guess. So he basically has everything we do except you sub out AD and Paul George and you throw in Anthony Edwards. I wouldn't be mad with
yeah,
that.
yeah, it's going to be it's the Timberwolves again. Like I said, I think are the only team in that middle of the Western Conference that is not going to get an All Star when the voting is all said and done. Because
Yeah,
obviously, Towns nope wasn't missed way too much time. Gobert has not been playing well. Anthony
everyone's
Edwards
missed
is
time.
currently their best player and didn't start the year well enough. So I think they just seem to have like more of a perception, even though their record's essentially the same as the other teams.
Yeah.
There's going to be more of a perception of them struggling,
All
and I
right.
don't think Edwards will make it.
Let's get down to what we came here for, the controversy. Bosh, these
Yes.
are our Eastern Conference All Star reserves. We both agreed on Joel Embiid. Surprise, surprise. We differ. You have Jared Allen. I have DeMar DeRozan.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
We both have Jimmy Butler. I have an asterisk for it because I think you can make a case for Bam Adebayo instead of Jimmy Butler. Then we both agree on Tyrese Halliburton. We both agree on Jalen Brown, and then I have an asterisk on Jalen Brunson and Trey Young. Your last two are Drew Holiday and James Harden.
Yep. But
I
this is interesting because like what sucks here is kind of how DeMar is listed. He's listed at guard in the fan voting, and I'm assuming that the ballot that the coaches get, he's going to be listed as a guard also, which is really
oh
weird because
really?
if you looked at the fan voting, you were only able to vote for him at guard.
Oh
So
wow,
yeah,
that's
it's
weird because
he never plays guard, never. Even when Zach sits, DeMar is not the guard. You always have Caruso
I
and
could have
Io.
sworn because I know that's how they had it last year, where
Yeah.
he started at guard. But I thought
Hmm.
this year they corrected that and
Nope.
had him as a front
I
court.
don't think he's played a single minute at guard, but he's listed on the fan ballot. He was listed only at guard, and I would assume that they would keep that ballot exactly the same when they send it to the coaches. And then if that's true, that's why I have him missing. If he was listed as a front court player, I'd have him in there, probably
Wow,
over
you're
Jared Allen.
right. You're
Yeah.
100% right. Oh my god, I thought he was listed as a front court guy
Mm-mm.
because that's why I had Jimmy Butler. I had him right in between Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid as a front court guy. That
Yeah.
makes no
Yeah,
sense.
it doesn't make any sense. At least with Luca in the West, where he's listed at guard, yeah, he is really like a point guard, even though like he should have been listed as a guard forward. Like if he's a
Hmm.
guard, then why isn't LeBron a guard? But whatever. Um,
Semantics.
right. But in DeMar's case, it makes no sense. He hasn't played guard in years, and he's never played a single minute at guard for the Bulls.
I think the
Like they,
last time he played guard was when he was in
Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah.
I mean, even if maybe you could argue there were some San Antonio minutes he spent there, like it's
No,
possible. I
man.
don't
I
know
think
of
they had
any.
him mostly at power forward in San
Yeah, they had him
Antonio.
mostly at power forward. Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
it's wild.
Crazy.
It's
Okay.
wild.
So
But
let's continue to run down our
but that's
stuff.
why I want to say that's why DeMar doesn't make my team, because when you have two guards, two
Hmm.
front courts, and two wild cards, and because of the strength of the East guards, I like all my wild cards are all actual guards. I couldn't like find a way to put DeMar in there.
Interesting.
Now I do want to say, because of DeMar's rep and his and the amount of game planning coaches have to do, because they game plan for offensive players or really elite defensive players more, right? Elite defensive front court players. You don't really game plan for Marcus Smart, but you game plan for Robert Williams III and Bam Adebayo,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And Jaren
Correct.
Jackson Jr. and Gobert, etc. So because of that, the guy I've got in going in at Drew Holiday doesn't get game planned for. Coaches know how good he is, though, so I think he'll still make it. But on the other hand, they do game plan for DeMar DeRozan. They you see them throwing the doubles and the traps at him every time the Bulls
Yes.
play anybody. So based on that reputation, the coaches may vote him in at guard anyway.
Because here's the thing: we're assuming that the coaches are going to follow the rules how they're supposed to. They might just go ahead and just have DeMar DeRozan in there. I don't think they actually have like a ballot
No, I
like
think
with.
they've got a ballot. They've got like a ballot. Like you got to pick
Okay,
one.
all right,
Yeah,
all right. I thought they
from
were
what I
just like
remember of like
write
previous
in their
interviews.
their players and then call it a day. So then that I think that if he is listed as a guard, I think that really hurts either a Jalen Brunson, a Trey Young, a Drew Holiday, or a James Harden here. And
So let's talk about this. So we each have our wild cards. So again, just to reiterate,
completely different.
right, two guards, three front court players, two wild cards. Because of the strength of the guards in the East, frankly, there's some good front court players that are left off on both our ballots too. But the guard play has been so elite that we've got our major differences there. Both of us agree on Halliburton. We actually think he deserved to start.
Oh
Like
yeah,
he's been
yeah.
awesome, despite the fact the Pacers were able to beat the shit ass Bulls the other day. I just threw our one profanity in there, so I don't know if we can still slide by
Oh
without the explicit rating.
wait, here's one thing we haven't thought about. Tech is Jalen Brown listed as a guard or a
He's
forward?
also listed at guard.
Is he really? He
Yep.
plays small forward
I
for them.
know. I know. I know. It, it's frustrating, man. It's weird. I don't
Jesus.
know. Yeah, I don't know what the reasoning is there, but yeah, he's listed at guard.
Okay, I'm gonna read off Bakley. Bakley. He has Halliburton, Randall, Embiid, DeRozan, Jalen Brown, Siakam, and Harden. See, and here's the thing. This is the reason why I want to just highlight his list as well, because I think that's the guy. If DeMar DeRozan is a guard, I think he gets in over a guy like a Trey Young or a James Harden or a Drew Holiday. I
Yeah, I
think
don't think Trey Young is getting in at all because, again, remember, coaches are voting. Not only has Trey Young had a really bad year and the Hawks have been struggling a lot, but he's now like kind of known as being a problem for his coach. Coaches, again, they're if you ever hear Jeff Van Gundy like on an ESPN broadcast, frankly, he's gotten to the point where he's kind of like really annoying to me now.
yeah, every
Coaches
single
will
time.
always back a coach, and like no coach ever deserves to get fired. They're like Supreme Court justices. They should have jobs for life. Like they're always backing coaches 100%. The
Yeah.
fact that Trey Young has been, they had that publicized blowout with Nate McMillan, sat a game out because of it. Like and on top of that, he's struggling. Now, if he did all that and he was having a good year, then maybe it'd be a different story. I don't think there's any chance of him getting in. I think Jalen Brunson is the guy who's really the question here.
Here's my thought process is that I kind of looked at it kind of like I did with the West. So I listed DeMar as a front court guy. and that's kind of like where things fell apart. I
Yeah.
thought that there was going to be a Nick in there somewhere because they are playing well, and I think they're going to give some love to a Nick. My question is, do you give it to Jalen Brunson, who's
Or
kind of been,
Randall.
or do you give it to Julius Randle? Because they're both like great impacts and great contributors for their team in different ways. Randall's helping on the defensive rebounding end, even though he is scoring as well.
Right.
Jalen Brunson is just like a microwave oven. He just gets hot in the blur. I think they get it. Like if let's say that it's Randall, I think he gets that front court spot. If they decide to do it that way, I think they give Randall the spot only because he's a front court, and then I think Jalen Brunson gets snubbed out in favor of DeMar. If he has to be voted in as a guard, he'd be voted in as a wild card. And to go off of what Bakley mentioned, like Brown does play shooting guard, but like
But
currently
he
they had
also
him.
plays forward. Yeah.
He also
He
plays
play.
forward.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
in some lineups, he's gone all the way down to power forward. But
like
like,
like
yeah.
like I mentioned, Bakley. So the asterisk on Jalen Brunson is that I couldn't decide between him and Randall. I felt like they were both fair and even contributors to the team, similar to a De'Aaron Fox and a Demontis Sabonis. I'm not gonna lie to you, I literally flip a fucking coin because I couldn't decide. So
Well,
if I
and if I can address it, like I really like when we talked about starters, I really thought Jalen Brunson was going to be on my team, no doubt. Like, first of all, Brunson's from Chicago, man. Not only that, Vince sat with me. We used to hang out before we ever
yeah,
did this podcast on draft days to watch the NBA draft, and I mean all of it, like all the rounds. We like all four
we'd
fucking
stay till
hours of
the end of the second
till
round,
the
dude.
end, man. 4 hours we would hang out, and he remembers me going crazy that the Bulls didn't draft Jalen Brunson with their second round pick that year, and I was so sad when Dallas snapped him with that second round pick. So I definitely thought he'd make my list. But it's just the depth of the East guards is insane. Like, look at who we got making it. I have Brown, Jalen Brown, because again he's listed at guard. Drew Holiday, because the Bucks are playing so well, and Drew Holiday I think is, again, I thought even last year he deserved it over Middleton.
Oh yeah,
Um,
100%.
and then Tyrese Halliburton's a lock. Like, we
I
both have
think
him in, right? And so, like, and then you went with Trey Young. So we're leaving out Trey Young. We're leaving out guys like Darius Garland playing for winning teams. I left out DeMar. You had DeMar in as a guard, although
mhm.
I think that it might be a little difficult with how they
Okay, so here's the thing.
positionally. Yeah,
Here's my thing. If I'm able to change my list, not knowing that I'm illegally putting DeMar DeRozan as a front court guy,
yeah,
I would change my list to Julius Randle as the front court guy and DeMar as the final guard spot, edging out Trey Young, and then that second wild card spot would go to a James Harden. So the only reason I had an asterisk on Trey Young is because I couldn't decide if I wanted to give it a Harden or Trey Young. I didn't know if they were going to reward more teams that are in the in between of the standings. Yes, he struggled. Yes, the Hawks struggled, but so have the Bulls, and so has just about every other team in here. So I
yeah. But
thought
I think Trey
they
Young personally has struggled more
that's
than
true. That and
he's.
that's a
It's
fair
as if Zach Levine's start of the year was how Zach Levine was playing even now. And
true.
Zach Levine's start of the year and kind of his mental miscues over the past week and a half are the reason he's not in contention with me.
The way he started, and yes,
Yeah, he was awful at the start. I mean, granted, I predicted he would be in our preview pod. We said he'd be
mhm,
better. Both of us said he'd be better as the year went on. But that's why he's not on the All Star list. And I
mhm.
think Trey Young is kind of just he struggled
So
almost all year, other than like one hot streak a month ago.
so I'm gonna take this. I'm calling an audible. I'm removing Trey Young from my list. I'm moving DeMar DeRozan into the final wild card spot instead of him. I'm gonna change Jalen Brunson to Julius Randle for the front court, and that final wild card spot. Yeah, I'm gonna give
Well,
it to
I
James
think
Harden. I'm just gonna give it to James
yeah,
Harden.
yeah.
Yeah, so
So
I'm changing Trey Young to James Harden, and I'm changing Brunson
to
to
Randall,
Randall.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, and I
yes.
and I kind of think that too. So the last player I settled on was in that front court spot because when I went through the guards, again, I think DeMar has a chance to make it over Drew Holiday, But I
Yes.
think Drew Holiday, and again, the Bucks are second in the East. The absolutely piss poor Bulls are like 11th. So I had to go with Drew. He's having a great year.
I think you just been like spurned by the
I have
Bulls a
been,
little
but
bit too
also Drew
much.
Holiday's been really good, man. And he was spurned last year. Like he should have been an All-Star last year. And I think that with Chris Middleton missing time,
Mhm.
Giannis has missed time. Like Drew Holiday's been pretty consistently great for them throughout the year. He's missed a few games, but not very many compared to anyone else.
I think the one that I'd argue against on your list would be Jared Allen. I don't think
Okay,
he's
so
played enough
that's
games.
yeah, that's let's get to that because I said he was my last pick in, right? And that's because I got both guards. I got both of the wild card spots filled by guards. So I only had two front court spots, and you have Embiid locked in as one. And
Hmm.
I was thinking for the other, is it Julius Randle or Jared Allen? And the reason I went Jared Allen is he's having a better year right now for the Cavs than the people might think. I
Right.
think coaches know that when they play Cleveland. Cleveland is having a much better year than the Knicks are, and I think out of the two Knicks, I think Brunson is more deserving, but Randall has a better chance. So I
He
didn't put an
also
asterisk.
has another All Star in
Right,
his like
right. He
resume.
in his right. And I think I do like I would put an asterisk up there if I had put one. It would for Jared Allen, it would have been there, and I would have guessed it's either
Or
Bam
Jimmy.
Adebayo, Jared Allen, or Julius Randle for that last front court
Okay.
spot.
All right.
And
No.
I kind of went with Jared Allen because I think the coaches know his defensive and offensive impact, and the Cavs are
Hmm.
winning more. But that's a real toss up there.
Because here's the thing: the Nets have two All Stars, but that's only because they got voted in. The
Yeah.
Celtics, I feel like, deserve two All Stars in Jalen Brown and
Yes.
Jason Tatum. The
Easily.
Sixers definitely deserve Joel Embiid in there. You can make an argument for Harden, maybe. I
He's
think
just
he's
been
just.
having such a good, time like last few weeks, like
Mhm.
that I think that they're gonna vote for him in.
Yeah, and then
But I agree with you. You could definitely argue.
with the Bucks, here's the thing: with the Sixers, Bucks, and Cavs, I think they're only going to get one All Star in. Even though I just said Harden, I'm keep talking. You might talk me into just voting two Knicks in there, and
So
then
yeah, go ahead.
you look at the Heat, and I think as well as Bam is playing, I don't think he's been playing well enough to warrant both him and Jimmy Butler to be included in the All Star game. So I think Jimmy Butler might just force Bam to be a snub. His own teammate is going to cost him there. I think you get a Nick in there
Hmm.
and a Pacers obviously
You got
Halliburton.
Halliburton.
Wizards. The only one I would say is maybe Bradley Beal, but he's been so injured
Nah,
that
Wizards are not
Wizards
getting
aren't getting anyone.
Wizards. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
they're not getting enough there.
I just changed. Never mind. I'm changing my whole thing all over again. I figured out my final wild
Is it
card spot.
Pascal?
Giving it Pascal.
So that's my first note. Siakam should get the last front court spot. That's what I think he deserves it most, even over
Yes.
Jared Allen. I just think that when the coaches vote, the Cavaliers right now are the only team. They're a game and a half ahead of the Heat. They're 2.5 again up on the Knicks. 4 games up on the Hawks. 6 games up on the Pacers. Like they're doing well enough. They're only a half game behind the Nets for fourth. So
Mhm.
the top 5 in the East is pretty solid right now. I think they're going to reward Jared Allen, but I
There's so
think
much
Pascal is most
parity here,
deserving.
though.
Yeah, there's a
There's so
lot of
much
parity.
parity here. Like the Raptors are
Pascal, and again in my notes, Pascal is who I think is the most deserving of that last front court spot.
right now.
Pascal.
The Raptors are currently one game back from the playing tournament, and they are currently, if I'm not mistaken, here 2.5 games back from the 8th seed. Four
Yeah.
games, 5 games back. Jesus.
And I have
Okay.
to say, if the Wizards were going to get an All-Star, I think it would be Kuzma this year. He's the
Not
only
after the
one.
outfits he's out here throwing. No,
I
no,
don't think the coaches are paying
no,
attention to that.
no.
But I mean, he's the only one who's played all year,
I
who's
mean,
been
he killed the
consistently.
Bulls with that buzzer beater at the end.
Yes, he's been consistently
Jesus.
good all year. Beal was good for a while. It was out. Then he was kind of mediocre. He was out again. Porzingis was good for a while. Then he was out for a long while. Then he was bad. Then he was good again. Now then out again. So I think out of the Wizards it would probably be Kuzma. But
Hmm.
again, if we're talking between Bam Adebayo and Jared Allen and Julius Randle, I think Kuzma loses out. And again, above all of them is Pascal Siakam.
So okay, so here's my official list. I've
Oh,
changed it like
shout out,
maybe
honorable mention. Paulo Banchero having a great year, not going
Oh,
to make it.
shout
Just
out
a
to
shout out.
Paulo. Like
Yeah.
he's gonna be an all-star at some point. He's gonna be an all-star.
And the
Maybe if
Bulls are
not,
going to see him tomorrow. I'm sure he'll dominate us.
yeah. Well, we didn't see him the first matchup, which is the only reason
And
I
we
even
lost
went to the
anyway.
game. The only reason I even went to that game was to go see Paulo play, and he didn't
Right.
even fucking play. So my official list, official, not changing it. Front court, Joel Embiid. I didn't knew DeMar DeRozan was a front court, but I'm replacing him with a former Raptor, with a current Raptor, and Pascal Siakam. Jimmy Butler, because I think he has the name value. I think coach's game plan more for Jimmy Butler than Bam, but I wouldn't be surprised if they have Bam instead of Jimmy. Tyrese Halliburton is the lock of all locks, along with
Yes.
Jaylen Brown, that you can include with Joel Embiid. Then the
Yeah.
final two wildcard spots are going to be DeMar DeRozan, because out of everyone between Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, Jared Allen, and Trae Young, James Harden, I think coaches currently are game planning more for DeMar DeRozan as opposed to any of those other players. And the
Mhm.
final wild card spot is a New York Knick. I cannot choose between Jalen Brunson or Julius Randle. I'm gonna say Julius Randle probably gets it,
I
but I'm
think he just
rooting
has the
for
best shot because, yeah,
he
I
has
think
the better
Brunson deserves
shot,
it
but
because of the front
I'm
court. Yeah.
but I'm rooting for Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
He's this is a homer pick for Jalen Brunson, but
You know, I'm
nonetheless,
always rooting for Jalen Brunson.
yeah. So basically, you see my list here.
Yeah.
Take out Trae Young, put in Pascal.
Yep. I
That's
gotcha.
my list. That's my list.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Not
Cool.
bad. Not bad. And
Yeah.
you know,
Interesting predictions. Yeah.
we had more debate here on this one, and this is why I saved it for last. Because once
Yeah.
I
The
saw it,
East.
I was like, "Oh man, this is the good one here."
Right.
Jared Allen, like man, I love Jared Allen, man. I'm glad he made it in last year, but I don't.
His offensive contributions are underrated too. He's a much better offensive player than given credit for. You
The
know,
Cavs should really have two All Stars here, but
that's
they're not
that's one
going
of the
to.
main reasons he was like my last pick in there.
Yeah. Anything else you got on the East All Stars
No,
before we move
I
on?
think we covered it. We talked about who we thought should make it. We talked about, oh, you know what? Do you want to get to
Honorable mentions.
yeah, like basically if let's do it, let's say it this way. If someone is injured and can't play, again, Commissioner Adam Silver picks the replacement. So who would be your top two picks in the West and the East to be injury replacements?
Okay, well, we'll start with the West. In
Yeah.
terms of injury replacements, I
If you
think it
want, I
would be.
can, yeah, go ahead.
I think it would be depending on who gets snubbed between Damian Lillard, Anthony Davis, and Paul George. I think one of those three guys gets voted in as one of the main guys. In terms
Well,
of
assume your list makes it. Who would you have in?
say that again.
Assume that your list of reserves is the team. Then who would your
Let me
pick
go
be?
back to my list.
Yeah, yeah.
Assuming
I'll give you a minute.
assuming my list goes in, Anthony Davis gets voted in because he was having a fire season up
Right.
until the injury. And then that last spot, I'd reward Sacramento Kings, De'Aaron Fox.
Okay. So you have Anthony Davis and De'Aaron Fox, if your whole list made it in, as the next two as
Yes.
injury replacements. In the West, I have Jamal Murray.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would be the first injury replacement, no doubt. And second is kind of a toss-up. I think it'll be a Memphis Grizzly, and whether it would be Jaren Jackson Jr. or Desmond Bane, I'm gonna go with Bane as the pick. So we'll see.
If I had to pick a second Grizzly, I think it would be Jaren Jackson Jr.
And I
for me.
think actually your De'Aaron Fox pick might be more likely. I just think, I don't know. I'm betting on, if my list makes it in. Again, we're predicting that this is going to be the list, so I'm going to go. I'll side with Desmond Bane tentatively. Jamal Murray to me, I think, is the definite. Like, if my list was in, then he'd be the definite next man up.
Mhm.
Desmond Bane is more of a toss up.
We're all wrong. It's gonna be Keldon Johnson from San Antonio. Somehow a Spur is gonna get in. Well, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
Never mind. Anthony Edwards.
Oh yeah, Anthony Edwards is a very good.
Anthony
Yeah.
Edwards and Anthony Davis.
Okay, the Anthonys. All right, now going to the East, if you want to split.
AD will slip on the back before he gets to the game. That's funny. Let's go to the East. You'll start this.
I don't think he has a lot of out of game injuries. If anything, he'll slip on one in the game.
That kind of sounds like Carlos Boozer when he
yeah,
slipped
that's more
on
of a
his
Boozer
laundry.
thing to do it.
Yeah,
to do it outside of the game.
God, fucking Boozer
AD,
gets
it'll happen.
injured.
Weird shit happens to him, but it happens in the game always.
In the game, never outside the game.
Yeah.
Bosh, start with your two injury
So
replacements if you had to do them.
Eastern Conference, since I'll go number one, Demar, I think, and number two, Pascal. And I think you can almost flip that. Like both of them, you can kind of toss in.
Yeah.
It may even depend on who's doing better in the standings at the moment of an injury replacement being named.
Mhm.
Um, but I think between Demar and Pascal, those are the two. Since they didn't make my list and they did make yours, I have them next man up.
Okay, given my current list at the moment, assuming it makes it minus Trey Young and you have Pascal, I think James Harden, Drew Holiday, the two guys on your list that should get in
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Because
So
your
yeah, we
reasoning for Drew Holiday was flawless. The only flaw I saw in it was that I thought he was the lesser name out of every single guy that was
which you're right.
mentioned
I agree. You're right
between
on that.
James Harden, even the Jared Allen. I feel like some people would say, "Oh, Jared Allen,"
Or even Jalen Brunson, he's getting the spotlight because of
Oh
free
yeah, because
agency
he's
and
in
because
New
of New
York.
York.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, we all have the same around the same names listed here, man.
So what's funny is as much we had a lot more discussion and debate on the East because of the limited spots, but in the end, if you expand it to the two injury replacements, we have the exact same list, don't we?
Which
I
raises the
think
question.
Jared Allen. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
The only difference being Jared Allen, Julius Randle, or something, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. See, look, this is why I raise the question every single year. Why limit it at 12? It started at 12 because what there were like 8, 10 teams at the start with the All Stars.
yeah.
There's 30 NBA teams now. There could be two
And
future expansion
rosters have
teams.
expanded too. Like people don't
Right
don't
now,
remember rosters are now at 15. Like you have,
roster
yeah.
rosters are currently maximum 15. You have to have a minimum of 13, 14 active players that can play
If a
in the
roster
game.
minimum is 13, then why shit isn't an all-star at least 13, if not a 14,
Yeah, so I think I've gotten to the point where it should be the top 15 best players in each conference. And I feel like if we do that, then we'd be able to get everyone in there. But that also raises the question, if you expand the rosters, does that create even more
It's
conversation?
always going to be an argument, but I think like the slippery slope thing of like, oh, the more you expand, the more you're just going to want to keep expanding it. I think that kind of falls apart just because of like there's real logical reasons to expand it. Like you said, the league is expanded, by a lot of more teams than when the rosters were set at this number. Rosters themselves have expanded, and I think it's like you see the marginal difference at the edges here. I think once you start getting beyond, 14, 15 players, the differences are much more than marginal. They're much greater differences. With
Yeah.
I think I would be down with 14 at least if they at least put in 14, fine. But I think you're right. 15 would be ideal, but at least get it to 14, man.
I would say at least put 13
Yeah.
because I
Like
think
like you
that's the
said, roster
minimum.
minimum, roster
Yeah, I
minimum.
think that's the roster minimum is that you need to have at least 13 players on your roster. So give the extra slot.
Yep.
Plus, they did it 1 year when like Dwayne Wade and Dirk retired. They both had honorary
Yeah,
roster
yeah.
spots.
Adam Silver named them as honoraries. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Before we
I
sign
really thought
off,
that would be the prelude to like expanding the rosters by
oh,
at least one spot.
it should have been the thing that opened the door to that avenue.
Yep.
But
Yep.
whatever. Before we sign off, thought we check out the jerseys, get our
Ooh.
thoughts on it, guys. I'm a fan of the West jerseys. I guess they'd be technically the West jerseys because they're kind of like that Utah Jazz gradient jerseys that they had for a while that are very fucking cool.
I
The
like the East
blue,
one.
the
Or
East
or I don't
one,
know if it's East or Giannis. I guess we call it
the
Giannis.
Giannis
Yeah, the
team
Giannis
Giannis
jersey.
one, I like too, but it doesn't give me any Utah Jazz vibes to it. I would have liked if it was more of a purple with like some mountains on it.
Yeah.
I think I would have liked that. Because that was my big thing is that I kind of wanted both the Team Giannis and Team
Man, you
LeBron or
give me a
whatever.
great idea. When they had it in Chicago, one of the jerseys should have been the Chicago flag version, the baby blue with the red stars, and the other should
Hmm.
have been the Bulls version with the red and white. Man, that's what they should have had.
Or they could have just done like a black one,
Right.
like
Or like
the
the current city edition or something. Yeah.
no the one
Last
from
year's city edition.
last year's
Last year's
City
city
Edition
edition.
with
Yeah.
like the what was it like
The
chrome and
Chicago
black.
theater type of
Yeah,
wording, and yeah.
exactly. That would oh man, that would have been fantastic.
That would have been pretty cool.
Someone should get us on the committee to like book these jerseys. But yeah, that's our East and West All Star predictions, guys. Let us know what you guys thought. Obviously, Bakley gave us his stuff, but go ahead and reach out to us on Twitter and Instagram at SES Vince for me. Let me know what your All Star reserves are. For Basharat, you can find him on Instagram at System Lord without the E, and
Hmm.
on Twitter at System Lords Tech. I've
Yep.
tagged them obviously as well, and go ahead and subscribe on YouTube,
Yeah, guys,
follow
please give
on
us a
Twitch.
subscribe or a review on Spotify or Google Podcasts or anywhere else. That'd be great.
If you tuned into the live, thank you. Give this episode a thumbs up, and then go ahead and listen to and download the audio version. It'll be up in a few hours after the airing of this. Search up SE as Vince in your favorite podcasting platform. You'll be able to find us there, man. Bosh, anything
Yeah, I
else?
appreciate you guys in the chat and appreciate you guys catching us live, even though my
Yeah.
camera went off.
Oh no, it's 2 a.m. here in Chicago. Like, thank you for being awake at this time.
Yep.
But yeah, for Basharat and myself, this has been the Straight Talk Podcast. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Later, y'all.
Peace.